Okay, so the first type of 14 mark question is when a statement is specified in the question, and you are asked to either agree or disagree with that statement and then provide your reasons for your agreement or disagreement. We expect to write a total of 7 reasons for this type of a question, and those 7 reasons they have to obviously include the first one at the very beginning. Succession disputes were the main reason for the decline of Mughals, so we have to start with succession disputes. The discussion would start in succession disputes, and then it will go onwards to the other reasons. Okay. So if you look at this particular reason, let's see how this model answer is sort of addressing this question. The first reason for the decline of Mughal Empire was succession disputes. There was no definite law of succession among Mughals. Death of an emperor meant war among the royal family for the throne. Due to these, a lot of money and soldiers were wasted, and the Mughals could not put up a strong force against the invaders. Now, this is one reason. Bold lines are all the evaluations, analysis as to how you sort of connect your reason back to the question. Arrival of British also proved to be an important cause for decline of Mughal Empire. Now, this is level 4. We've written the first reason level 3. We've switched on to level 4, and now we're writing 6 other reasons. We're talking about the arrival of British and how the British entered for trade, but they got involved in the matters of subcontinent. They were more advanced in terms of the weaponry because of the Industrial Revolution. They had well-paid soldiers. They knew better war tactics and strategies. And the Mughals, because they were of no match to the British, they basically lost and the Mughal Empire ended. So the analysis of the entrance of British will be that the Mughal Empire ended. Now, third reason is that the Mughal Empire was very large and vast, and the emperors, they were not aware of what was going on the other parts. There were a lot of rebellions that were difficult to put down, and governance became extremely difficult for the Mughal rulers. And all of this ultimately led to the decline of the empire. Then the fourth reason is no concept of navy. British were trained; they knew how to attack those seas, right? But Mughals, they had no concept of navy. They couldn't defend themselves on the seas, on the coasts. And what happened here was that the European invaders, they easily took over the Mughal empire and ended it once and for all. Now, the fifth reason here is that the Mughal Empire, Mughal emperors were unreliable, they were dishonest, the soldiers could easily get bribed. You can obviously mention examples here in 14 mark questions. You can, I mean, it's always encouraged that you write examples for references because the examples help you justify your claims. Whatever points you make, whatever arguments you create, you need to justify your arguments with the help of examples from the course, right? The examples, they make your claims extremely stronger. So it's highly advisable that you guys do mention examples. If you're talking about unreliable, dishonest leaders, you can think of no, sorry, not Robert Clive. You can think of Mir Jafar in Battle of Plassey and how he was easily bribed, right? The Siraj-ud-Dawla's troops, if you remember. And if you want to talk about a military leader who was extremely honest, who was extremely loyal to their army. You can talk about the British General Robert Clive, right? So do mention the examples. Then the next reason, sixth reason, is the pleasure-seeking lifestyle of the Mughal emperors. They were involved in the luxuries and they wasted state treasury over that. All of this led to a collapse of the administration. Yes, and all of it led to the decline of empire. This is another elaboration of the pleasure-seeking lifestyle, how they became corrupt and all of it led to downfall. But now, the important thing to notice here is that with every reason that we're writing, we're also writing down an analysis at the end of each reason. In a 14 mark question, this analysis is extremely important. If you don't write the analysis, you will sort of not be linking up your answer with the question statement. Just making statements is not enough because they need to know why you're making these statements. If you're saying that succession disputes were reason for the decline of Mughal Empire, why do you think so? Not just writing that there were a lot of fighting, there was what do you say? They were wasting a lot of treasury, they were not united. Now, why are you writing all of these reasons? You gotta sort of justify your claims, right? This is what the analysis does, and this analysis at each level is extremely, extremely important. And once you write all of these reasons, at the end, you will be writing an evaluation. So, like, evaluation at the end means that you sort of clarify why, which reason now you think was the most important. Obviously, if do you agree with the question statement? Do you agree with any other reason? You write that, you clarify your opinion at the end, and then provide two, three lines of justification for your evaluation as well. I hope this format is clear, guys. Please let me know if there's any question you can ask. Um, just stop me there, do ask questions. All clear. Then another type of 14 mark question here is, let me show that to you. Yeah, how successful? This is another 14 mark question where you'll be asked to analyze the successes and failures of events. You'll be asked to talk about um, the um, the events in terms of their consequences, in terms of the impact the events had, right? So this question says, how successful were the British attempts in getting control over India? Now, what you're doing in this question essentially is that you're talking about all the attempts that were made by the British to control India, and you are looking at their successes and failures. So you start writing off with one side. If you were talking about successes, so your first few reasons will be about the successes. And then your second bit of this question would be on just the failures. Now, for this type of question, it's important that before you get into writing it, you need to establish your thought process. If you think now, for this one, were the attempts made by British to control India, were they successful in general? We would say yes, because the British finally took over India. So obviously, they were successful. So this question will have more successes and less failures. Because you're supposed to write seven reasons, so your ratio would be 4 to 3 now. Four successes and three failures. Um, Now, you can write down one particular event as a success and at the same time as a failure as well, or you could write down completely different events for successes or failures. If we start writing down the successes, now you'll think of all the British attempts that were successful. For example, you can talk about the British modern weapons and technology. This factor led the British become successful, right? They were superior over the Indians. They were sort of winning all of the battles with decisive outcomes, with clear victories, right? And hence they became successful and they took control of India. This is the first success. Then British were also successful because they could easily they could easily control the local leaders. They and all of those local leaders were actually supporting the British, right? For example, Mir Jafar, he helped the British, and in Mir Sadiq in the Anglo-Mysore War also helped the British and worked against Tipu Sultan. But this loyalty of the Indians and how they could easily bribe the Indians meant that the British were successful. Then doctrine of lapse was another successful strategy. It was introduced by Lord Dalhousie, and what the strategy said was that if any ruler died without having a natural heir to their lands, that land would go under the British control. And they successfully took over Nagpur, Jhansi, and Satara through this policy, right? This meant that this attempt of British was also successful. And then another success was the annexation of Sindh and NWFP and Punjab, right? The British had, although they had signed agreements with these territories against wars, but they provoked them. What they did was they tried to provoke them through attacking, through sort of intruding over the borders, just so the other party could initiate an attack first, and the British would get a reason that, oh, ye to, they, because of this attack, we're just retaliating, and this is what they did, right? So the strategy also worked, and they were able to take control of these lands through um, this provocation that they did. Now, after writing four successes, we'll shift on to the failures. Your level would shift. Now, this was level three up till now. In this type of a question, the next few reasons would be your level four. For example, Nawab Sirajuddaula attacked the EIC base in Calcutta. British were not able to defend themselves. They were defeated. And this was one event where um, the British could not withstand the Indian power. And yeah, so this could be written as a British failure. Then, although in the Anglo-Mysore Wars, in the final battle, the British did win, but initially, they had a series of wars. Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan were very brave military commanders from the Indian side, and because of their presence, because of their strong war capabilities, the British could not win these wars until the final battle that they won. So this was another success of the Indians and a failure of the British. And the last failure of the British was when they were about to capture Punjab. Ranjit Singh was the ruler of Punjab, and until he died, British had no courage to attack on Punjab. Um, authority of Ranjit Singh was such a strong one that they knew that they cannot even dare to intrude in Punjab because Ranjit Singh was an extremely influential and powerful ruler. So his presence itself meant that British were not even they were not even trying to enter Punjab. So this was another Indian success. And then once you've written all these seven reasons at the end of this type of question, you will write your evaluation. Whether you think whether there were more failures or more successes. Okay. Obviously, if your ratios clearly say that you've written more successes and less failures, your evaluation would also go with the side of successes. The British were in general successful, although there were a few failures. For example, the failures that you just wrote, but in general, the British were successful because they took over the entire subcontinent. And that clearly speaks that they were successful. Is this clear to all of you?
Yes, sir.
Now, this is another question. How successful was the Indian resistance to British attempts? This is same question, but with different words. Most of the times, the questions in the paper are they have the same answers, but the wordings are different. So, with that, we are now moving on to um, a 7 mark question, right? You should know how a 7 mark question is also written. Well, you see this question here, the War of Independence was caused by these Carter's issue. Give reasons. This is also the first type of 14-mark question, where you're going to start off by discussing the these Carter's issue and onwards to 6 other reasons. Um, then a lack of unity was most important cause of failure of the War of Independence. You'll start off writing by the lack of unity and 6 other reasons. The War of Independence achieved nothing. Do you agree? Now, this is also a how successful question, but it's worded as this, that it achieved nothing. But majorly what you're writing here is, again, the successes and failures. Let's look at the 7 mark question. Why did Sir Syed found the Aligarh movement? 7 mark questions generally start with why. These questions ask you for reasons for a particular event, for a particular incident, for a movement, right? Now, this 7 mark question asks you for 3 reasons as to why the Aligarh movement was found. Um, you always have to write 3 reasons for a 7 mark question. Okay. Now, let's look at the first one. And obviously, you need to make 3 paragraphs, 3 reasons. The first paragraph here says that Aligarh movement was found to improve relations with the British and Muslims. You see, Sazir Ahmed Khan had worked a lot on improving the British-Muslim relations and to create awareness. So the British, after the War of Independence, had blamed Muslims for this war. This was leading to a downfall in the relations of British and Muslims. Now, so Sayyid found this movement so the Muslims could understand the British policies could align with their ideology and not just think of British as foreign invaders, but accept them as rulers as well. This was one reason. Secondly, this movement was formed to improve the status of Muslims in India. Muslims had poor education, they were illiterate, they were not ready to accept the British education system, they were not ready to accept all of these changes that were happening. And hence, this movement was found to sort of teach Muslims of these inventions of the British and how the education system was not just all bad, it was not just a foreign concept that was important for progress in the modern world. And Muslims had to accept this idea if they wanted to progress because the Hindus in the subcontinent at that time were ready to accept all of these British ideas. And obviously, by accepting those ideas, they were more closer to the government as well. They were able to get more favors as well. And Muslims, they needed to sort of play diplomatically. And then the last reason here was to make Muslims aware of the British threats. Again, the same reason I was stating earlier that Hindus were more friendly with the British. They showed more acceptance to the British policies. Muslims also needed this political awareness or this political superiority if they wanted to survive in the subcontinent because it was all a system of democracy and the one with majority wins, right? So Hindus were number one in majority. Number two, they were more close to the British as well. So this Aligarh movement was found to create this awareness in the Muslim community of the British as rulers. So the Muslims could become politically aware. This was an example of a 7 mark question. And you see, all the 7 mark questions that you'll see across your syllabus will be based on um, the same pattern, 3 reasons, or they'll always be asking you to write down the reasons. Now, 4 mark questions. See, here's the list of 4 mark questions. These 4 mark questions are all point marking questions where you just write 4 reasons. That's at 4 points. And those 4 points, again, the question answers are supposed to be written in a paragraph format. But those 4 points, they ask you to write down about maybe a personality, details of an event, of any place, right? But and then the type of reasons that you write, you need to have facts and figures because stating facts in 4 mark question will make your answer more stronger. For example, what was the Farisi movement? Now, this question has to write 4 points on Farisi movement. It was founded by Haji Shariatullah. It was founded in Bengal. It ensured that the Muslims follow strict principles of Islam to follow their farz. And it was continued by Haji Shariatullah's son, Mohsin after his death. 4 points. Similarly, who was Mohsinuddin? This is a 4 mark question that asks you about a personality. Mohsinuddin was the son of Haji Shariatullah. He was the one who carried on the Farisi movement, right? You can maybe write 2 more points regarding Farisi movement in this answer as well. Then, what were Shah Waliullah's beliefs, right? This question asks you about his belief system. You can talk about how Shah Waliullah was concerned that the Mughal Empire declined due to neglect of Islam and Quranic teachings. He felt that there was sectarian division in the society, that the Muslims were not able to defend themselves against the foreign invaders, and they also needed this lost unity. So, just 4 points, but again, in a paragraph format.